All right, so today we're diving deep into something that I think is going to resonate with a lot of you out there, especially if you're in healthcare or just fascinated by, workplace dynamics.
Yeah.
We're talking about nurse retention,
Hmm.
how to create workplaces where nurses not only survive, but actually thrive.
Right.
And it's not just about, decent salaries, although obviously that's important.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about building a supportive environment from the ground up.
A culture of well-being.
Exactly. And to guide our deep dive today, we're turning to the Pathway to Excellence program, PTE for short.
Okay.
It comes from a professional development group called Omnis Development.
Hmm.
And what's really interesting to me is that it's not just a quick fix, a Band-Aid solution.
No,
It's a whole philosophy.
it is. It's a way of thinking about how to create a work environment where nurses feel, well, valued,
Back. Seen.
empowered to make a real difference.
Mm.
Yes, exactly. And that leads to some pretty incredible outcomes, not just for the nurses themselves, but, think about the ripple effect.
Oh, yeah.
Better patient care.
Improved team dynamics.
Right. And even a hospital's overall success.
Okay, so let's unpack this PTE thing, shall we? There are 6 core elements, and we're going to go through each one in detail.
Sounds good.
First up is shared decision-making.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, well, isn't that common sense?
Right.
But
You'd be surprised.
it's not always the reality.
No, not at all.
So many nurses feel left out of the decision-making process.
They feel like they're not being heard. And think about it. Nurses are the ones on the front lines.
Day in and day out.
Yeah. They're interacting with patients constantly. They have such valuable insights into what works, what doesn't, how to improve care.
Exactly.
And when those voices are silenced or ignored, it can lead to, well, frustration.
Disengagement.
Ultimately, nurses leaving the profession altogether.
That's like a brain drain, right?
Yeah.
All that experience walking out the door.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a huge loss for everyone.
So what's the PTE solution? How do we fix this?
Well, PTE basically flips the script. It says, hey, let's empower nurses. Let's give them a real voice. And one way to do that is through nurse-led councils.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, think of them like mini think tanks,
I like that.
where nurses can brainstorm solutions, come up with recommendations, and present them to leadership.
Wow, so it's like, we trust your expertise, we want your input.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that nurses are not just, following orders. They're partners in improving patient care.
That makes so much sense. It's like tapping into this incredible wealth of knowledge and experience.
Right. And it's not just about councils. PTE also encourages hospitals to involve nurses in, policy development.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, so instead of policies being dictated from the top down, they're actually getting input from the nurses who are going to be implementing them, who are on the ground.
It's like, who better to understand the realities of the situation?
Precisely. It's common sense, but it's often overlooked.
So true. And speaking of leadership, that brings us to another key element of PTE, visible and engaged leadership.
Oh, that's a big one.
And it's more than just, showing up for a photo op or something.
Yeah, it's about leaders making a conscious effort to be present, accessible, responsive to nurses' concerns, really building those relationships.
I was reading about a hospital that actually had this program where leaders were required to spend like a certain number of hours each week shadowing nurses on the floor.
Oh, wow.
Not just observing, but like actually helping out with tasks, getting their hands dirty.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Really experiencing the challenges firsthand.
Yeah, because that sends such a powerful message, right? Like, we're in this together. We value what you do. We're here to support you.
It's not just words, it's actions.
Exactly. And that can be really transformative for the whole culture of a hospital.
Because suddenly, leaders aren't just these distant figures in an office somewhere.
Yeah.
They're colleagues who understand the realities of the job.
And that builds trust. It fosters open communication. It creates an environment where nurses feel comfortable speaking up, sharing their ideas.
Knowing that they'll be heard.
Absolutely.
And respected.
Mm.
Which, nicely leads us to the next core element of PTE, leadership commitment.
Okay, yeah.
And this goes beyond just visibility, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Visibility is important, but it needs to be backed by genuine commitment. We're talking about leaders who not only talk the talk, but walk the walk.
So it's not enough to just, show up for a few hours a week and then disappear back into the executive suite.
Exactly. It's about making a conscious effort, a consistent effort to invest in nurses' well-being, their professional development.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit.
Sure.
What are some things that leaders can do to really demonstrate that commitment?
Well, one of the most effective ways is by being present and accessible, not just physically, but emotionally. Having an open door policy, scheduling regular one-on-one meetings with nurses, actively seeking out their feedback.
So it's about making them feel like they're not just cogs in a machine,
Exactly.
but valued members of a team whose opinions are actually respected.
Yes. And these one-on-one check-ins aren't just about, you know, performance reviews or problem solving.
Right.
It's an opportunity for leaders to connect with nurses on a personal level, to show genuine interest in their well-being, understand the challenges they're facing.
It's like saying, we see you, we hear you, we're here to support you.
Exactly. And that kind of support, it goes a long way in fostering a sense of loyalty, commitment among nurses.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's move on to the third core element of PTE, safety and well-being.
Right.
And I think it's safe to say this is absolutely critical, especially in a profession as demanding and stressful as nursing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The well-being of nurses is directly linked to patient safety and the quality of care.
It's all connected.
It is. When nurses are burnt out, stressed, overwhelmed, it impacts their ability to perform at their best. And that can have serious consequences.
The domino effect, right? When nurses are struggling, everyone suffers.
Yeah. Patients, colleagues, the whole system.
So how does PTE approach this? How do we create a work environment that genuinely prioritizes nurses' well-being?
Well, PTE takes a proactive approach, recognizing that preventing burnout is much more effective than just reacting to it after it's happened,
Right, getting ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And one of the key strategies is ensuring balanced scheduling, making sure nurses have adequate time off between shifts, limiting overtime, being flexible with schedules whenever possible.
So it's about recognizing that nurses are human beings, not robots, and they need time to rest and recharge.
Exactly. And it's not just about time off. It's also about providing mental health resources that are specific to the unique challenges faced by healthcare professionals.
Because, let's be real, this job can take a serious emotional toll.
Absolutely. So hospitals that follow PTE often provide access to counseling, support groups, other resources to help nurses cope with the stress, the trauma they encounter on a daily basis.
It's like having a safety net.
Yeah, a support system.
Okay, so another thing that PTE emphasizes is encouraging what they call restorative breaks.
Yes, this is interesting.
Now, most workplaces offer breaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what makes a break restorative?
Well, a restorative break is more than just, stepping away from your desk for a few minutes and scrolling through your phone.
Right.
It's about intentionally engaging in activities that help you de-stress, recharge, and return to work feeling refreshed and focused.
So give me some examples. What are we talking about here?
Think meditation, yoga, listening to calming music, spending time in nature, even just taking a few minutes to disconnect from technology. Do some deep breathing exercises.
Yeah, I like that.
It's about finding what works for you and making a conscious effort to incorporate those practices into your workday.
This reminds me of this hospital I read about that actually designed a special relaxation room for their staff.
Oh, wow.
It had comfy chairs, dim lighting, aromatherapy diffusers,
Right.
even a little fountain.
Yeah.
And nurses could just go there during their breaks and decompress for a few minutes.
I love that. That's such a great example of how hospitals can create a truly supportive environment, a space that prioritizes well-being.
It's like they're saying, we get it, this job is tough. We want to help you take care of yourselves.
Exactly. And the benefits of that, they extend far beyond just the individual nurses.
Oh yeah, when nurses feel cared for, supported, it shows up in their work.
Absolutely. Their interactions with patients,
Their overall job satisfaction.
and ultimately a much higher retention rate.
Because if you feel valued and appreciated, you're more likely to stay.
Absolutely. And speaking of feeling valued, that brings us to our next core element of PTE, recognition.
This one seems like a no-brainer, right?
It does, yeah.
I mean, everyone wants to feel appreciated for their hard work.
Of course.
But in the fast-paced, high-pressure world of healthcare, I imagine it can be easy for those efforts to go unnoticed.
You're right. Nurses are constantly going above and beyond, dealing with challenging situations, long hours. And when those efforts aren't acknowledged, it can lead to, resentment.
No. Ultimately, a desire to leave the profession.
They start to feel like, if my work doesn't matter, why am I here?
So how does PTE tackle this? How do we create a culture of appreciation in such a busy environment?
Well, PTE emphasizes celebrating both big and small wins.
I like that.
It's about making a conscious effort to acknowledge and appreciate nurses' hard work and dedication, and not just, during Nurses Week,
Every day.
every single day, making it part of the culture.
Okay, I'm on board with this. But what does that look like practically? Are we talking about like throwing parties every week?
No, it doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive. Sometimes the most meaningful recognition is the simplest. For example, hospitals that follow PTE, they often implement daily gratitude huddles.
Daily gratitude huddles. Okay, I've got to hear more about this.
Yeah, it's a simple but brilliant concept. So at the beginning of each shift, nurses gather for a few minutes, and they share positive feedback, acknowledge each other's contributions.
Cool.
It could be as simple as, hey, I really appreciated how you handled that difficult patient yesterday.
Right.
Or, thank you for staying late to help me finish my charting.
It's like a little pep rally for nurses, a way to start the day on a positive note and build team morale.
Exactly. And it can really make a difference in how people feel about coming to work.
It's funny you mention awards because I was just reading a study that showed a direct correlation between recognition programs and increased nurse retention.
Oh, yeah.
It's really remarkable how something as simple as acknowledging someone's hard work can have such a profound impact on their job satisfaction and their well-being.
It really is. It's about feeling seen, valued.
Like your contributions actually matter.
Exactly. And when you think about the sacrifices nurses make, the long hours, the emotional toll, the constant pressure to deliver exceptional care, it's even more crucial.
It makes sense to acknowledge that.
It does.
It reminds me of something a nurse once told me. She said one of the things that kept her going during tough times was knowing that her colleagues and her leaders had her back, that they saw her, appreciated her, and were there to support her.
That's so powerful. It really speaks to the heart of what we're talking about.
It does.
And speaking of support, let's move on to the fifth core element of PTE, professional development.
Okay, so this is all about empowering nurses to grow, to advance in their careers, right?
Exactly. The problem is, so many nurses feel stuck in their current roles, limited opportunities for advancement.
Like they hit a ceiling and the only way to break through is to leave.
You got it. And that's where PTE comes in. It encourages hospitals to create this culture of continuous learning and development, providing nurses with the tools and resources they need to really advance their careers and reach their full potential.
Okay, so how does that translate into action? What are hospitals actually doing?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is offering tuition reimbursement programs.
So nurses can pursue advanced degrees, certifications, without having to, shoulder that financial burden alone.
Exactly. It's a huge incentive, especially for nurses who are early in their careers or maybe struggling financially.
Yeah. It's a great investment.
It is. It shows that the hospital values their growth, is willing to invest in their future. And it's not just about formal education either.
Right.
Hospitals that embrace PTE often offer a whole range of in-house training programs, workshops, seminars.
Like a professional development menu.
Exactly. Nurses can pick and choose what aligns with their interests and career goals.
I love that. And what about mentorship programs?
Oh, those are fantastic. Pairing experienced nurses with newer nurses can provide invaluable guidance, support, encouragement.
It's like having a built-in cheerleader and advisor.
Right. Someone who's been there, done that, can help you navigate the challenges.
When I think about professional development, it's not just about acquiring new skills or knowledge. It's also about feeling challenged,
Engaged.
excited about your work.
Yes. Reigniting that passion for nursing, helping nurses see the possibilities within their organization.
That makes so much sense. And that brings us to the final, but certainly not least, core element of PTE, healthy work-life balance.
This is a big one.
Especially in a profession known for its demanding schedules, long hours.
Absolutely. For too long, there's been this expectation that nurses should sacrifice their personal lives for their jobs.
Right.
But we know that neglecting your personal life leads to burnout, resentment.
Decreased quality of care.
Exactly. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Love that analogy.
So PTE recognizes that nurses are whole people with lives outside of work, and it encourages hospitals to create a culture that supports work-life balance.
Okay, so let's get specific. How do we actually put this into practice? What are some tangible ways hospitals can support work-life balance?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is offering flexible scheduling options.
Okay, like what?
Part-time work, rotating shifts, job-sharing arrangements.
Even the ability to work from home for certain tasks.
Right. It's about giving nurses more control over their schedules, recognizing that everyone's needs are different.
And that benefits everyone, right? Less absenteeism, improved morale.
Exactly. A win-win. And what about policies that address family needs?
Oh, that's a good point.
Hospitals that are truly committed to work-life balance often have generous parental leave policies, on-site childcare, maybe even elder care resources.
It's about recognizing the whole person.
Absolutely. And finally, PTE encourages hospitals to create a culture where taking vacations is not just allowed, but encouraged.
Interesting. In so many workplaces, there's this pressure to always be available.
Right, but PTE flips that script. It recognizes that taking time off to rest and recharge is essential for well-being.
You come back refreshed, rejuvenated, able to provide better care.
Exactly. And that benefits everyone.
So how do we shift that mindset? How do we create a culture where taking time off is seen as a positive thing, not a sign of weakness? Because I think that's a struggle in a lot of professions, not just nursing.
It is, and it starts with leadership setting the example.
Leading by example.
Exactly. When leaders prioritize their own well-being, take vacations, it sends a powerful message.
It normalizes it.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just taking time off. It's about creating a supportive environment where nurses feel comfortable asking for help when they need it, setting boundaries, prioritizing their well-being without feeling guilty.
It's like self-care is a responsibility, not a luxury.
Exactly. You have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of others.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Pathway to Excellence program.
It's been a great discussion.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from shared decision-making to work-life balance.
And what I find so compelling about PTE is that it's not just a set of rules. It's a philosophy, a way of thinking about nursing that really puts people at the center.
It's about creating a culture where nurses feel valued, supported, empowered to make a difference.
And when nurses thrive, everyone benefits. Patients receive better care, hospitals operate more efficiently.
The whole healthcare system becomes stronger.
It's a ripple effect.
It is. And you know, what's really exciting to me is that these principles, they're not just applicable to healthcare.
Oh, absolutely not.
We've been focusing on nursing today, but really, these are universal principles that can transform any work environment.
Think about it. Shared decision-making, leadership commitment, safety and well-being, recognition, professional development, work-life balance.
These are things that everyone wants, everyone needs.
Imagine a world where every workplace embraced these values.
It's an inspiring thought.
It is. And the journey starts with each of us, recognizing the value of these principles and making a conscious effort to implement them.
So to our listeners out there, I want to leave you with a challenge.
Okay.
What can you do starting today to create a more positive, supportive, thriving work environment for yourself and those around you?
Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, advocating for a colleague, or simply expressing gratitude to someone.
Small actions can have a big impact.
They really can.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Pathway to Excellence program. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and inspiration.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving deep. So how do we shift that mindset? How do we create a culture where taking time off is seen as a positive thing, not a sign of weakness? Because I think that's a struggle in a lot of professions, not just nursing.
It is, yeah. It really is a cultural shift.
Right.
And it starts with leadership.
Okay.
Leaders setting the example.
Leading by example.
Exactly. When they prioritize their own well-being, when they take vacations,
Right.
it sends a powerful message to everyone else in the organization. Like, hey, it's okay
To take a break.
to step away, to
Right.
recharge.
Right.
And it goes beyond just taking the time off, right?
Yeah.
It's about creating that supportive environment where, nurses feel comfortable asking for help when they need it,
Yeah.
setting boundaries, prioritizing their own well-being without feeling guilty or judged.
It's like self-care is a responsibility,
It is.
not a luxury.
It's not selfish to take care of yourself.
Right.
You have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of others.
Well said. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Pathway to Excellence program.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from shared decision-making to work-life balance.
We have.
And what I find so compelling about PTE is that it's not just like a set of rules.
No.
It's a philosophy, a way of thinking about nursing that puts people, at the center.
At the heart of it all.
Yeah, creating that culture where nurses feel valued, supported, empowered to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And when nurses thrive, everyone benefits.
Right.
Patients receive better care, hospitals operate more efficiently, the whole healthcare system becomes stronger.
It's a ripple effect.
It is. And what's really exciting to me is that these principles, they're not just applicable to healthcare.
Oh, no, not at all.
We've been focusing on nursing today, but really, these are universal principles that can transform any work environment.
Absolutely.
Shared decision-making, leadership commitment, safety, well-being, recognition, professional development, work-life balance. These are things that everyone wants, everyone needs.
I think so, yeah. Imagine a world where every workplace
Hmm.
embraced these values.
It's an inspiring thought.
It is. It's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
And it's possible, right?
Yeah.
The journey starts with each of us,
Okay.
recognizing the value of these principles and making that conscious effort to implement them in our own lives, our own workplaces.
So to our listeners out there, I want to leave you with a challenge.
Okay.
What can you do, starting today, to create a more positive, supportive, thriving work environment for yourself and those around you?
Right.
Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting,
Yeah.
advocating for a colleague.
Or just, taking a minute to express gratitude to someone who's made a difference
Small actions.
can have a big impact.
They can. Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Pathway to Excellence program. We hope you've gained some valuable insights
It's been my pleasure.
and inspiration to create positive change in your own work life. Until next time, keep diving deep.